Hey friends, welcome back to another Freebie Friday. This week, instead of doing a free pattern, we're mixing it up again and doing a free tutorial. My kids are always looking for bookmarks, and I thought, you know what, I've got some scrap fabric, let's do an elasticized bookmark, because over in the Sewing Hub, our challenge this month is all about sewing through your stash, and I have a giant stash of scraps, and I thought, what better way than to make a bookmark for my kids, and this is a perfect tutorial too because it's completely customizable. You can change the size, you can change the length, you can change it however you want to do it. So I thought, let's go ahead and give this a go. Okay, so the first thing you're going to need is I'm using batting. If you don't have batting, you can use flannel, or you can just use, a cotton woven that's a little bit sturdier, but I'm using batting and I cut it at 2.5 by 7.5. And then I have 1/2 inch elastic because that's what I had on hand, and I cut that at 9 inches. I was basing it off this book here that my son gave me. So if you look at it, if I lay it on, it fits. The bookmark part is a little bit smaller, and then I wanted the elastic to go over and be snug, but still have a little bit of stretch to it and not be too snug. So you can cut it however, change it to what you'd like. Just grab the book that you're going to be using, and you can kind of customize it based off of what book you're using. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take all my scrap fabric and I want to lay it out on my base. The most important things with the scraps that you're using is you're going to want to make sure they're all wider than your base piece. So the other thing you're going to want is this top one needs to be long. It needs to go above the base piece too. So it needs to be above and longer than it. So once I have that figured out, I'm just going to keep going and lay out all my fabrics so I can see how it looks and make sure that I love the layout and the look of the fabrics together. And once I'm happy with it, we are going to go ahead and take it over to the sewing machine, and I'll show you a little bit more about what to do next over there. So now that we're happy with the layout, we're going to set the fabric aside. I'm going to put it in order so that I can just quickly grab it. You don't have to do this, it's just kind of a preference thing, but we're just going to set it aside so that it's right there to grab as we go. Then we're going to take our first color and we are going to lay it so that it's right side up on top of our base. Again, just make sure that the fabric extends on past both sides of your base and above your base. This is really important because it just ensures that it completely covers your base there. Then we're going to take our next fabric and we're going to lay it right sides together, lining those raw edges right up, and then we're going to sew along those raw edges with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to start before my base and end after my base, and this is just going to ensure that those stitches go all the way across the base there and they're not missing anything. Next, I'm going to just finger press this down, grab my next fabric, lay it right sides together, I apologize, with the other fabric, making sure all those raw edges are lined up, and sew along those using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Again, you are sewing through both fabrics and your base at the same time. Okay, once you have that, we're going to take it off the machine, finger press it down again, and grab your next one. And we're just going to go through this all the way through all our colors until our base is completely covered. Okay, so now that I've got most of my base covered, you can see I'm missing this tiny little corner. So I'm gonna go ahead and use this other fabric, even though it's gonna probably end up getting cut off and you won't be able to see it in the final thing. At least it'll be completely covered. So if you come into something like this, just find something little, because you don't want any part of that base not covered, because you don't want it to accidentally poke through or show or anything. So now that it's all done, we're gonna take it over to the iron and just press it all so it's nice and flat. Oh gosh, look how cute this is. It's all pressed, and as you can see here, it's quilted through the back of our base there, which is just what we want. So looking at the base, we are now going to take a ruler and we're just going to trim off these extra bits of fabric because we don't need them anymore. So just take your ruler right along the edge of the base and trim through the excess fabrics that are hanging over. Try not to cut your base. If you cut a little bit, it's okay. It's not a big deal. While you're at it, go ahead and square everything up. Make sure that, nothing got wonky as you sewed or anything like that. Yeah, we're just going to trim up all these bits and bobs. And once that's done, now we're just going to throw those away. And look at that. We've got this really super cute bookmark piece. Now what we need to do, though, is we need to add the elastic to it. So to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to find my center points, because I want the elastic to be right in the middle. Otherwise, it might look a little wonky. So I'm just going to fold it in half and put a little clip there. You can make a mark or a pin, whatever you prefer. I'm just going to fold it in half, and now I'm going to line my elastic up with the raw edge there on the side, right in the middle, on both sides. And then I'm just going to baste that on using like 1/8 of an inch. It's just a quick baste to make sure it doesn't slide. All right, with our elastic basted on, now it is time to add our back piece. So again, I just took a scrap piece of fabric, cut it at 2.5 by 7.5, and now I'm just gonna line it up with all the raw edges, making sure that they are right sides together, or the backing is right sides together with our front of our bookmark, and the elastic is sandwiched in between. So just pin or clip all the way around your bookmark so that all those raw edges are nice and lined up. And again, you want to make sure the elastic is sandwiched in between, and not that it doesn't get in the way of any of those raw edges, because you don't want to accidentally sew it. Then what we're going to do is we are going to take this over to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew starting on one side. We're going to sew around, down, and back around, and then we're going to stop at the other side, but leaving about 1 inch, 2-inch gap there so that we can flip it inside, like right side up afterwards. Okay, so we're just going to sew all the way around using a 1/4 inch seam allowance again, and then when we get to the corners, when we're about 1/4 inch away, we're going to stop, pivot our fabric 90 degrees, and then sew down again past to the next corner. Here I went a little bit over, so if that happens to you, no big deal, just back stitch until you get back onto it. But sew all the way around, but leaving that 1 to 2 inch gap on the side. Okay, so the backing fabric is now attached to our bookmark, and we have that gap there. What we're going to do now is we are just going to turn the bookmark right sides out through that opening, making sure to really press those corners out. I'm going to use my handy dandy purple thing that I think I use in every single sew I do, but it's really nice because it's got a flat edge, so I can get right in there and push those corners out without worrying about it poking through or anything like that. So yeah, just go ahead and turn it completely out. Okay, so it's turned right sides out and our corners are pushed out. Now what we're going to do is we're going to fold in the raw edges of the opening the 1/4 inch so that it's even now with the rest of the bookmark. And I'm going to go ahead and take that over to my iron, and I want to press it all down. So now that it's all pressed and those raw edges are in towards the seam there, we're just going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch around the entire bookmark. I forgot to film this part but while you're doing this, make sure the elastic is out of the way. You don't want to catch that in your seams. But after you have it all top stitched around, you're all done. It's the cutest bookmark ever. It's so handy. My kids aren't going to lose it because it looks great and it fits over this book perfect. There's a little bit of stretch, so it's not too tight, but it's tight enough that it's not going to fly off. And the best part is it's reversible. I absolutely love this. You could like use some HTV and put their name on it, or do like some embroidery if you wanted. If you did embroidery, do that before you put the back piece on, but it's so cute. It's so handy. I am obsessed and I'm gonna go make 4 more. So thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time. Bye.